We are here because we are dedicated to helping the entire CrossFit community. Determined to elevate coaches, box owners, athletes, and everything in between, we believe that this mission will begin right here, right now. While this time and this goal begins with you, our hope is that you take this fire ignited within you and weave it into your own life with the same unrelenting passion to give those you have the privilege of coming in contact with the best hour of their day.
Welcome back, everybody. Jay is not with us. That's not true. He's here. I just wish he wasn't. But today, actually, Katie, we're going to let Katie lead. Katie has an announcement to make to everybody, to all of our avid followers who want to see me smash Jay in an exercise competition. Yeah.
All four of them are listening. Nosehold, Lou,
and your mom.
Sometimes my mom too. So, let's add that one. But yeah, so we have an announcement. What'd you say?
Does Tyler listen?
Probably not.
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. But yeah, so we have a competition coming up, RX Smart Gear, which is one of our sponsors of the podcast. We're partnering with them this month. And what we're going to do is at the end of this month, we are getting together for our best hour retreat. Jay is going to do Annie and Fern is going to do Flight Simulator. So we have Ackerman does Annie, Fern does Flight Simulator. And you guys there's going to be a post coming out on our Instagram. Comment on that post for your guests for their times. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, RX Smart Gear on Instagram, and then also subscribe to our newsletter, which is at the link in our bio. So you'll see that post coming out in the next couple weeks. Don't forget to comment on it for your guesses for the times that it's going to take both those guys to finish their workouts. And if you guess the right time, you get a prize with Best Hour and RX Smart Gear swag.
What is a good time for Flight Simulator? I know what a good time for Annie is.
Should we talk about what we think we can get, or does that skew, or do people listen to me talk about what I think I can get and they'll automatically double it?
I mean, it's Annie. You can't be that far off. If you're that far off, man, you really suck.
Annie is less about the double unders, in my opinion, if you have them, and far more about the sit-ups.
Sit-ups, you just got to be fast at sit-ups, but
right. The double unders, it's like you're either doing them unbroken, or you're not. And if you're doing double unders unbroken, there's no slow. Like you're not like, oh, that took you 2 minutes. But anyway, Flight Simulator. I've done it once. I was on a cruise ship, ex-girlfriend at the time. We got into a huge fight during Flight Simulator because it's such a frustrating workout. Plus, we're on a cruise ship, so the boat's moving. You know about that, Fern. And there was low ceilings in this little room we were doing it in. It was just a recipe for disaster. It was, I don't remember the time, but it's way longer than it should be. I would tell you, what is it, up to 5 to 50 and then back to 5 in 5 rep increments, but you have to pause. So
wait, I thought it was different. So it's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40. Oh, how many fucking double unders is that?
I don't know.
It's up to 50. And then I can do the math. And then you got to go back down to 5, but each set has to be unbroken.
Right. Yeah. But how many is that?
Well, young Katie. And then 50s once. It's the, what's the word? Apogee? Is it apogee? Not apogee. What's the word?
Climax.
No. What's the word that Cassidy used?
Apogee. Yeah.
Apogee is apogee. Yeah. 50 is the apogee. You hit it once. Katie.
Is it 150? Yeah.
I think
no. It's gonna be way more than 150.
It's more than that. Yeah.
Katie should have had this pulled up.
I'm sorry. I'm looking.
That's not what I thought it was. I thought it was way less than that.
No.
It's a lot of double unders. Probably close to 300.
I'll tell you what. Yeah. I'll tell you what. We're gonna do it like you set up, Katie. But we're gonna do both workouts just to compete. The prize.
You guys are each gonna do.
Yeah, Ackerman does Annie, Fern does Flight Simulator, but we'll do both just to see.
Just to see.
Just to see what?
Who's fitter? What do you mean what?
It's not a question of who's fitter. We could just make that call right now. It's a question of will the listeners get the right time? That's really what this is about.
I'm gonna throw out that is what it's about. But I'm gonna throw out a reference for those listeners that grew up in the 80s and 90s like I did. There was a TV show called Married with Children, and Al Bundy had 4 touchdowns in one game, and he would, in high school, and he would, refer back to that. That's Fern at regionals, 2012 regionals.
I mean, I feel like it's way more analogous to you referencing the whatever in 2004 when you owned an affiliate.
Did you do the math yet, Katie?
Yeah, if my math is correct, it's 500 double unders.
Wow. So I don't even feel like
Yeah,
this is
because
an
you have to
equal.
go.
I don't feel like this is even an equal workout. That's a lot of double unders.
You mean
It doesn't have. So the point was, it doesn't have to be that you guys aren't. I mean, I guess you could be competing still, but yeah, you can both do the same workout or both do both workouts. But it was just
500 double
independently. Then you could get the listeners can guess how long it's going to take Ackerman to do Annie and Fern to do Flight Simulator.
Yeah, we're not comparing apples to pomegranates, like I said. Like I like that expression.
I mean, I got to get my calves ready. I can start doing some calf raises right now.
You won't be. You think you'd be sore from 500?
I don't think I know.
Double unders don't get me sore.
I'm kind of my dad fitness is kicking in. Like I train twice a week, so everything hurts all the time.
I did hot shots.
I'm gonna do calf raises for the rest of this podcast. I've done 20 and my calves are already tired.
I did hot shots 19 yesterday in my garage. I'm smashed today.
Yeah, I would never do that in my garage. I would quit halfway through.
Yeah, I want to. That's the difference between us. Speaking of calves, though, I bet you had those shoes when you were a kid to make you jump higher.
1,000%. I used to wear them. If anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, they were called oh shit, what were they called? I think they were like jump shoes or something like that. Anyway,
Yes.
They had this weird platform in there. No, I would watch TV and jump rope for a full sitcom. Like for a full TV show for like 30
You would jump
minutes.
up the entire time in those shoes?
Yep.
Were you smashed after? Were your calves just lit up?
I was a kid. I could put a ton of volume on there, but that's also why I was able to dunk a basketball at 5'11" when I was in high school, college.
Can you still dunk?
Absolutely not.
We're doing a slam dunk contest at the Airbnb.
I can dunk on the 8.5 foot rim I have at my house that the HOA keeps texting me and calling me about.
What? You're not allowed to have it, or it's because it's not regulation?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think the HOA cares that it's regulation height. Yeah, I know they're more concerned that I have a basketball hoop in my driveway.
All right.
I've just been ignoring them for months.
Get us back on topic, Katie.
Okay. Well, today we are just again, don't forget to comment on that post for RX Smart Gear and us. The times that these guys are going to do. More details coming out later, but just follow us on Instagram to stay up to date. And today we're talking about templates, right?
Yeah. Was that a question? Katie was unsure. Katie was unsure what the topic was. Yeah.
Katie, she's off her game today.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'm off today.
She's texting me weird shit.
And just so everybody knows, Katie off her game is 300% better than Jay on his game.
Yeah. I do want to talk to you on a personal level, Katie, about what you were texting me about. Not sure that's a great idea.
Yeah. So that was completely random and give no context. So yeah, I would hope she knows you're talking about. You guys were texting, but no, the listeners don't, and they were like, "Thanks." That was what you just did is the equivalent of when somebody takes a panning video of the 5 p.m. class doing wall balls, and they put it on their Instagram feed. They're like, "Oh, look at the 5 p.m. doing wall balls," and I'm like, "Thank you. I'll never get that 5 seconds of my life back, and you just wasted it." So I genuinely have disdain for you at this point. So this topic has been kind of brought to us and asked questions, and this idea of like templates, like there's that there is this kind of like set outline that is going to solve all of your problems. Now, I do want to lead with the fact that I don't have beef with templates. What I want everybody to realize is they are a tool. They are not the answer, right? So if we ever get like a broader one, like a template would be, so like we can agree the level 1 manual has an immense amount of an incredibly valuable information in it. Is that fair, Jay?
Yeah, I mean it's like the Bible of fitness.
Right. However,
Right. Of fitness.
Right. However, we would also agree, I would assume, that that is totally different and pales in comparison to showing up to a level 1 seminar.
Yeah, you just can't. I mean, you know, different people learn differently, but what you get at a level 1 in person, and more importantly, I would say, like, you know, I know we're gonna kind of dig into this, so I don't want to steal your thunder, but it's like, hey, this is not always the perfect way to do things. This works most people most of the time if you read this book. However, we all have different scenarios and situations that occur at the box.
Right. And that's where I think having the resources / tools or something like a template is good. It's a fantastic starting point. You know, like SOPs is one. You know, there's people like, well, I've got my SOPs, and it's just like, well, that's a template. The SOPs are a template. It's a living kind of organism, or it should be. It's not the answer to your problems. It's not why you're not getting the results that you want. And far more often than not, I went through this evolution. I think you did as well, Jay. And we don't use a ton of templates when we teach people. What we do is we give them the general framework, and then we teach them principles, which I think is very analogous to the level 1, which is like, hey, this is the information, but now what we're going to do is teach you about the information so that you have context and you have kind of like parameters with which to apply the information, and then real life experiences on like where this information would be useful and relevant within your business or coaching, whichever one of those we wanted to use. So that's a big hang up for people, is that I think, and this is new. This is also like new for new gym owners specifically, because they have, like, I've got this email template or this retention campaign template, going back to the previous episode, or I've got this template for lesson plans is a great one, right? A lesson plan is a template, right? But my lack of understanding how to use the template or the nuances within that template that aren't actually in writing is where the big disconnect is with this whole thing.
Yeah, and I love the expression you used about principles. You know, I finished this book, but I still highly recommend it. Effortless, you know, and a lot of it was all about like the smartest people and the people that take hard work and make it effortless use principles, right? They use these ideas, you know, and you hear like from Ray Dalio to Warren Buffett about investing, you know, it's these principles that work. It's these principles also that last, right? Yeah, I think if you look back in CrossFit, whether it's 2001 or 2007, whatever era you're going back to, and you look at templates that were effective then are probably not effective now. I mean, in other words, 2007, 8, 9, no one was doing lesson plans, right? And if they were, it was very shoddy, like very like, hey, we'll have a little talk about Fran at the whiteboard, go do your thruster, pull up, warm up, whatever that looks like. And that was the template. Where if the principle has lasted, right? The principle of that has lasted. Hey, you should brief it at the beginning, get everyone's heart rate up a little bit, i.e. the general warm up, focus on the thruster, pull up, smash them in the workout, cool them down. That's the principle. But, you know, if you rely on templates, it's like when you see a horse with blinders, you can only go one path, and oftentimes you have to veer off that path, and then the people that are so attached to those are, I think, way less fun, and they don't grow as much.
What you said is spot on, which is they're limiting by the very nature of them, which is like, hey, this is the information and this is all the information. And we all know that that's not accurate. And it's kind of like they're the pillars of information, but there's a lot between each of those. And then there's a lot that kind of lives on the periphery, and there's a lot of context that needs to be applied, because like social media is another one, right? Like we have things that we teach people with regard to social media, but, and we do give a template for that. However, when people go through that and we teach them, I'm like, here's what I care about. Do you understand conceptually what it is that needs to happen so that you can make this your own? Because if I go through and I look at somebody who's running templates, like a pretty common example is like, hey, I've got photos, and then I've got like a set series of copy, and then I just keep swapping them out, right? And what happens is that content becomes, it lacks soul, it lacks realness, it lacks depth, which is, if you think about the business that we are in as affiliate owners, that's your bread and butter, or should be, right? The depth and soul and community, right, that everybody likes to tout, like that is your bread and butter. And if you're gonna like how effective do you think it would be if somebody was just like, here's the template for community?
Yeah, it's not. It's not going to work, and it's you know what it's reminiscent of? Milk toast.
Right. Not with a K.
Milk toast. You see what that is, Katie? That's called a callback. It's a callback to a previous episode. Those of you listening, you got to go find it. But yeah, it's boring, right? And it not only is it boring, it's obvious.
Maybe not at first. And I think that's probably like the double-edged sword. It's not obvious at first because you'd have to zoom out far enough, or you'd have to be engaged with this person or this content or whatever it is for a long enough period of time that you would see the recycled nature of some of the things. Now, this is also not to say that there shouldn't be some consistent things within whatever you're doing. So like consistent things within your whiteboard brief, or consistent things within your coach's development within your staff, or consistent things within your social media. You should definitely have some consistency there, but it shouldn't consist of limited pieces. It should be creative by the very nature of that thing. So public speaking is, in my opinion, it is creative in nature. Social media, if done correctly, is creative in nature. So how do I take this idea of, hey, this is generally what we would like to have in there, and then constantly morphing that into something that is a better iteration, or more engaging, or has more depth, or highlights something else, or focuses elsewhere, but still kind of fits within the general parameters of the, I guess, we'll use that template, but I prefer principles a little bit more. So like I think I've referenced this before, but with regard to social media, our principles are there, and it leaves you a lot of room for leeway here, which is it should either be providing information, it should be funny, or it should be educational, right? So there's a difference between information and educational. Information is the gym's closed, or like pertinent information. Educational is, here's a video on forward inclination and the push press and what those two things look like. Funny is, chalk llamas, or, reposting, make WODs great again meme or something like that, or a blooper video of a coach falling down or something like that. What doesn't fall in there, and this is a principle, is that panning video of the 5 p.m. doing wall balls. Right. The other one you could put in there should be inspirational. It should tell a story, right? Like, hey, Jay, while is still not grown since he was in 4th grade, today did his first push-up without using his knees, right? It's just like, good job, Jay. Good effort, right?
Did I tell you that I grew this year?
You didn't grow.
I did. I can't believe I didn't tell you this.
If you're referring to that haircut, that doesn't count.
Did you grow because of your use of Doc Spartan?
Oh,
that's why he's been just layering it on his body, just nonstop.
No, but I do have a lot of people telling me, I get this a lot at jiu-jitsu. I don't mean to brag. People they'll ask me my age, and they'll be like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you're so old, and I'm like, yeah, don't let the youthful eyes and my fitness fool you. I'm an old man. But Doc Spartan Coffee Espresso, get the best hour package on Doc Spartan. The three products that we use regularly. Use the code best hour. What does that save them? 15%?
Yep.
This is an audio show, Katie. You get to...
All right, I'm sorry.
But no, yes. I did have a physical last week, and I'm 5'3" again. So I shrunk last year to 5'2 3/4, and I didn't let on to it because but I was very upset. I was very upset about it.
I have severe doubt. I have legitimate doubts that you're 5'3".
Well, she didn't. My hair is sticking up high today, but she pushed down on my head. I felt it. But anyway, I have grown. So, but when you mentioned public speaking, and I think that's really important, because when I hear templates, it makes me think that it's like stifles your growth. People that rely on templates, they don't grow. They don't think outside the box. It's like, we've all met those people, and especially coaches. You go to a class And it's like, hey guys, we're doing the push jerk. And I get it, level 1 progression, jump and land with your hands up, etc. But if I look around and I can have my lesson plan written out, and I show up and I'm like, okay, there's 8 people in class, all that have been here for more than 2 years, all that can jerk, more than the RX weight. Okay, time to change it up. Maybe we're going to focus on a split jerk today. Maybe we're going to talk about cycling the barbell. And you mentioned public speaking, and you and I obviously public speak a lot, not including this podcast, but just at seminars. I mean, if you coach at the box, we've had an episode recently, you are a public speaker. But Fern, the people on staff, we won't use names, that just regurgitate the manual.
Well, we've all been there, right? That is the process of learning.
Some stay there.
Kind of, but I mean, I think everybody breaks out of it. I would attribute that to frequency of work, right? Or like no different than like frequency of stepping onto the floor, which is like experience allows you to kind of break that mold a little bit. And in their defense, like that's kind of the guidance that's given, which is like, hey, stick to the script until you've mastered it, then you can deviate.
Yeah, I just that's funny because I've never stuck to the script, so I just disregard. Hence,
everybody's aware of that.
But whether it's public speaking at a seminar or just in general, I think we are so keened in to hearing people talk and listening to people, not just what they're presenting us, but like the actual words they're saying. The other day I was having a conversation with my aunt, and she was using the word like. Oh, I'm like, you're 60-something years old. And I said to her, like, and she's like, that's so funny you mentioned that. Other people have said it to me, like, well, maybe start doing something about it. But point is, we joke around a lot. We get off topic. We have fun on the show. But I think if we were so dialed in, we had a template and we wrote out an outline and just spoke about that, it's not as fun to listen to. It's like Greg Amundsen says, tell stories and people hear it. That's what you want to do. And whether it's public speaking or many other things that we're going to get to on the show, if you use templates long-term, like short-term, it's like steroids. It'll get you to a PR, but long-term, it's probably not too good for your health. Your balls are going to shrink.
Right. It's the beginner version of like learning a skill.
Yeah.
Right. So like another one is just like, hey, could you give me a good sales script? And I'm like, I could teach you how to sell something. Right. But if you stick to that script, it's not going, I mean, like if you stick to it to a T and you're not, and here's why, right? Here's why I think why. If I stick to the script, then the focus is the script. Like we're referring only to sales right now. Then the focus is the script, and it leaves out arguably the most important part of that interaction, which is the person sitting across from me. So if I'm so worried about the script and I'm not listening to what's happening, then I run into some problems. And because it might be rigid, you might find out that this person is far more ready to commit than other people, or way more hesitant. And if you push too fast or you move too slow, this script will really ruin a very personal interaction. It's no different than the whiteboard brief. If you are going to be that rigid and are not paying attention to the audience that you're presenting to and realizing like everybody's been here for 5 years, I could bounce around a little bit and just be like, hey guys, boom, boom, boom. This is kind of the time domain. Let's talk a little bit about some strategy here with regard to like going unbroken, cycling the barbell. Here's what I want you to think about. Don't waste your time on these transitions over here. Jog to the door. Like those people will get that. That's value to them. And because of what I'm applying here is principles, it's like they get that, but what do they need to walk away from the whiteboard with, which is like, okay, they understand the workout. They've done hundreds of these. The principle that they need to walk is like the strategy in order to hit the stimulus. So if I didn't deviate from that, it would be lackluster. There would be much less ability for me to connect with those people because they're going to realize that I'm not paying attention to who's in the class. Right. Or if it's a sales conversation, they're going to realize that this is a script. Imagine that everybody's been on the phone with like this person who's just following the flow chart. Like they said, no, here's what I say. Oh, they said, yes, let me divert back to this other thing. Be like, okay, well, so it's really, really not about the templates. It's understanding the principles of whatever the topic is, whether it's sales or retention or the whiteboard brief or the general warm-up or cool down or lesson plans as a whole or coach's development. yes, I need some framework. The problem is when I only abide by the framework and I'm never trying to grow out of that framework, to evolve, to abide by principles, because the principles allow you endless leeway in all directions. And they also are a really, really nice guiding tenet for staying on track, regardless of how far you think you're deviating off of whatever might be the main topic for that.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it with those sales calls. It's so obvious when you're talking to anyone and they're clearly reading a script or they're repeating what you said to give them time to find in their script, like, okay, this is what he said. It's like, hey, I got to talk to my wife. Okay, so you have to talk to your wife about it. It's like, it's you hear it, and it is. It's like, it's frustrating on a sales call, and I think that's probably part of why sales gets a bad reputation, because it doesn't appear genuine, and you don't want to be a coach that doesn't appear genuine. And like we said, if I think you're right. A script or a template is a great beginning, a great place to jump off. Like, yeah, give some of your newer coaches that. And it's no different than like, hey, let them then create their own warm up, or let them then, do their own thing at the whiteboard. You have to allow personality. I was having a conversation with one of our clients last night, and she was like, some of the coaches do it this way and some do it that way. And I said, she was talking about pull-ups. Like, there's a reason there's McDonald's all over the world, because there are
Right.
people out there that just want a damn Big Mac, whether they're in China, or
Right.
Virginia Beach. But, there's a little bit of a variation. Maybe there's a playground in there. Maybe one place, has ketchup, one has mayonnaise. Like, you have to
Right.
have that style and be, unique, but know that you're getting the same end product, which is really the workout. How we get there is different. I want my coaching staff to be different. I want people to be like, oh, I can't believe Katie's teaching today, or Fern's teaching, or you don't want to have coaches that people avoid, but it's okay to have favorites, right? There are definitely coaches, when I go to the box and Amy's coaching, I'm more excited than not necessarily more excited, but I really like her classes, and you want that, because we've all been there as a new box owner. All of your members, like, oh, I was just talking to another one of our clients this morning whose members were upset that he's coaching less. And I was like, yeah, it was like 95 when I saw Dave Matthews at a bar in Albany. And then the next year I had to, go to SPAC to see them and sit on the lawn. Like, I was upset. And then you're like, wait, but more people are seeing it and it's a better experience, and all, that's ultimately what you want. And that's how you get them there, by teaching them principles, not having them read a template.
Like an example of a template, let's use the coaching context here. So a template would be, first thing you're going to say is where they put their feet. And then the second thing you're going to say is where they put their hands, right? So stance and grip. So this is the template. And then you're going to say, drive your heels into the ground, but have a little bit of weight at the ball of your foot. And then you're going to say, send your hips back and down. And everybody sees where I'm going. It's very robotic. The principle would be stance and grip first, right? That I can flip those around however I need to. And then generally working bottom to top or top to bottom, whatever your principle is, right? Like it's a principle that I can mold based on who I'm looking at, whether they have a lot of experience, whether they're very, very new, whether they like a lot of technical information, whether they don't give a shit, whether they like jokes or whether they're very serious. All of that allows me to just be like, hey, the general template is hands in, or the general principle is start where, tell them to put their hands in their feet, and then work in one direction, right? Like outside of that, you could do that so many different ways. And again, like we could always go back to CrossFit. Like I just keep trying to find ways where like the theories and concepts and principles within CrossFit can't be applied elsewhere because they're not so rigid. Right? Like if there was a rigid template for constantly varied functional movements executed at high intensity, I guarantee you that it would be ineffective.
Yeah.
But if you think about constantly varied functional movements executed at high intensity, there's well over 10,000 affiliates around the world. All of them are doing that with a slightly different flavor, whether it's just, whether they're using strength biased program, or they're doing strength plus Metcon every day, or Metcon plus strength, or they're just doing kind of like more traditional CrossFit, or they have like a themes through the month or something like that. Like, guess what? All of those people in those affiliates are getting fit because they're abiding by the principles of CrossFit, which is like, hey, we want to use functional movements, vary them as much as you possibly can and use as much imagination as you can, and make sure that these things lend themselves to high intensity, right? Like, or principles or themes, like what we talk about in the level 2 with things that would lend themselves to high intensity. Like if you just had a rigid template, well, that by its very nature wouldn't abide by variance, right? Because you could never deviate from the template. Right. And it's the same thing in your affiliate. I have to figure out like, what are the principles with which we're going to abide by? And then what I want to do is I want to keep it engaging. Same thing on social media. I want to have principles, but I should deviate regularly. Otherwise people are bored. And they're like, okay, I know Tuesday they're going to repost from, make WODs great again, instead of like, I don't know, maybe doing your own funny thing for hump day in your gym, right? Because that's entertaining.
Yeah, I think, a couple things that you remind me of, and I say this all the time when I teach the air squat at level 1s and also level 2s. I'm like, hey, I typically work from the ground up. I focus on heels, well, obviously stance grip, then heels, knees, line of action, depth, midline. That's typically the order I go in. That's my template. But my principle is, all right, if I see something, I need to go there first. The principle is actually triage, right? It's right. Okay. That guy's rounding his back. Okay, I'm in the air squat. He's unloaded. He's probably not going to hurt himself. If I can get him in his heels and driving his knees out, maybe that back's going to fix himself. So I'm thinking of those things. And then if none of those are working, hey guys, let's take a look at midline. And they don't even know that I'm doing this, right? They just know that I'm teaching the air squat. And something else you said about this, constantly varied piece. You see a lot of boxes. Hey, we do heroes every Saturday, or it's, benchmark Tuesday or benchmark Friday, whatever. Cool. I think that's okay at times. But if you do that 24/7, 365, all of a sudden no one's showing up on Saturdays because they're smashed all week, and you're making them do, hot shots 19 like I just did. Or, the person, go flip it. The person that wants to do a hero workout but can't show up on the weekends now never gets that opportunity, and you see that a lot in like a Wendler or a squat cycle. Hey, we squat every Monday, and it's like, man, Mondays are my busy day at work. I can't make it, so I never squat. It needs to, that's your print. The principle is, hey, we live our lives in couplets and triplets. We go heavy once a week. We go long once in a while. Not we to go long on Saturdays. Not we squat on Monday. Right? That's the principle. The template kind of screws everything up.
Well, on that very note, that's a perfect example. Somebody just brought this up recently. Somebody dropped in and they were asking, how do you guys program? And they were like, well, my other gym, we always squatted on Monday, right? Because it's a template, right? But we could all very quickly come to the realization why that's problematic. Like if you are shift work or a doctor who works on Mondays forever, you would never squat heavy, which leaves out a massive portion of variance and developing strength. So, the principle would be like, lift heavy once a week. Where and when and how you do that, that's up to you. Find a creative way to do it, but not necessarily just on Mondays.
Right, and it's lift heavy. It's not squat, right? Sometimes lift heavy is snatching. Sometimes it's doing a heavy Turkish get-up.
Right, because there's a ton of value for stuff like that. So that's where this whole conversation could be applied endlessly across every kind of category within your business, whether it's the coaching or the service, whether it's the operations, the systems and finances on the background, on the back end, or the marketing. It's just like, hey, principles, not templates. And because the templates they're limited in their ability for you to maneuver, but they also restrict your ability to really understand conceptually what we're trying to achieve. Because I get so caught up by the template and not understanding the principle of how we're trying to apply this, because you may come up with something that nobody's ever done before that is far more effective than anything anybody's ever seen, because you understood the principle and you're constantly trying to tweak it and you're constantly trying to get better at it. But I think everybody understands the sales one, which is like, hey, this is the script, do the script, like again, we do provide like a template for that, but the general flow of it. And then once we teach people that, they're like, what do you say? And I'm like, I just ask them one question. How are you doing? What can I help you with? And then the principle is like, listen, provide solutions if you have them.
It's very open to interpretation, but at the same time, it's going to guide you in the right direction.
Right. Which is
what
principles do.
Yeah. Katie, will you look up the definition of principles? Not like the high school principal either. I'm only saying that because you're having an off day.
Thanks for looking out.
So Fern, we talked about sales. We've talked about programming in general, just the CrossFit methodology. Where are some other places at a box level you would see someone trying to squeeze in templates where principles should be what's being used?
Yeah, programming. I mean, you kind of mentioned it, but that's something we even bring up in the level 2, which is we have the evaluation sheet. Like that's a template, but we also tell people, hey, this is not how you should go about programming, because it would inherently lend itself to, bias or too much rigidity with regard to programming. The other place you can use it is coach development with regard to topics that you use. Be like, hey, we have to teach in this order. Or you could be like, hey, we're going to do coach development. We're going to work on whatever seems to be the pain point currently with the coaching staff. We might have had seeing and correcting dialed up, but if all the classes are running late, hey, we're going to skip that. We're going to talk about group management and lesson planning and where everybody's falling off track, because the point is development, not necessarily seeing and correcting. We could agree that seeing and correcting is absolutely part of development, but if it's not necessary right now, well, then it's kind of irrelevant for the current problem at hand. Strategic growth is another one. Like, I want to grow my business. Like, everybody probably listens to this, but they're like, I'm trying to figure out how to grow my business, right? There's a lot of different ways to do that. And what I would tell you, if somebody's going to hand you a template that says, here's how you grow your business, I'm going to tell you that template is probably not that effective, because it leaves out a lot of things. And something that it doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen when somebody comes in to potentially work with us. I may look at that business and say, I'm going to take step 5 and move it to step 1, because that's what needs to be applied here right now. Like, that is the current massive pain point that is time sensitive in nature. Let's address that, because the principle is improving the business. The template is the general layout of how the course is designed, because it is designed logically. However, if I never deviated from that, I would tell you right now, there's some people that are seeing success that would not have seen it had I not deviated from that, because I didn't apply context or principles to say, what does this person need? Well, they need that. They also need all these other things. However, what they need right now, today, is this thing.
You're triaging right. Business, right? Because we've had, like you said, like with Affiliate U, there's a curriculum, but oftentimes we go to order. I've had, probably 2 or 3 boxes where, like, day 1, I'm like, all right, let's look at the rates and let's increase these, because nothing else matters if you're living on food stamps, right? Like, this is great. You have a business you love and you can't afford dinner. So let's increase your rates and then worry about everything else. And I mean, you and I are 2 examples of someone who used principles in business. I've told this story before. The same aunt I was referring to earlier, wildly successful in the business space. And when I was opening up the gym, she's like, all right, let me see your business plan. I didn't have one, still don't have one, but she was like,
handed her a blank piece of paper. You're like, it's right here.
Yeah. She's like, you can't charge $100. You need to charge $9, $10 and hope they don't come in, right? That was the template to run a successful gym back then. And I was like, no. And my principle came from Coach Glassman, which was, this was pre his speech about care, but you saw it, right? You saw it on CrossFit.com back then. I was like, wait, the principle is like, let's just get people fitter. Let's have a good time and let's show them you care. And boom, crazy success. Had I gone by the templates, who knows where I would have been.
I kind of unwittingly, I guess what we just did was we are arguing for affiliation versus franchise. That wasn't the intent of the podcast, but that's kind of what we're doing. Franchises are very limited. And I know people want support. And we should kind of like chat a little bit about cap that just got announced yesterday or the right day before, I don't remember, but which is that's a perfect example of something where they're trying to walk that line of principles versus like this is the rigid template that you have to abide by, because I don't think that CrossFit would be successful to the extent that it is if it had been franchised.
Well, first of all, someone like me never would have been able to do it because I wouldn't have been able to afford it in
Right.
2007. Right.
I mean, maybe, but I still don't think we would have seen all the things that have come out of CrossFit if it was a franchise.
Yeah, I mean, no, I definitely couldn't have. I took every last dollar that I had, my bank account, my girlfriend's bank account at the time, same one that we almost broke up during Flight Simulator, so, and I think for all of the people that, had that reaction with everything franchise versus affiliate, forget that. Like $3,000 is a lot. 25, 100. I mean, how much is it to open a Dunkin' Donuts? Like you need to have a dollar amount in your bank account.
Six figures.
Yeah, to open some of these.
I think a McDonald's, I'm pretty sure this is accurate. I'm pretty sure a McDonald's is $1 million.
In assets.
You need to have $1 million to start a McDonald's.
Yeah. So we're gonna start in a Five Guys instead.
Ooh, listen, hey, I'm on board. If you give me if you give me bottomless Cajun seasoned fries, I'm in.
You like Five Guys or In-N-Out better?
That's a preposterous question.
Why? Why is that?
Those are not even close to being the same. That's like, hey, do you like filet mignon or bologna?
Ooh, bologna sounds good. I do love some bologna. What is bologna? Look that up too, young Katie, while you're at it. I don't know what bologna is, but I love it. You're suggesting Five Guys is like a gourmet burger versus In-N-Out?
No, versus In-N-Out. Yes, I'm not suggesting it's a gourmet burger, but it is comparatively when people are talking about In-N-Out. Like listen, there's a lot of people who are gonna like. People already probably didn't like me before, but now I'm gonna hate on In-N-Out.
This people that political views.
I know. You know what they say? You don't talk about politics at the table, and just don't shit on In-N-Out. I think that people's obsession with In-N-Out is very weird.
I think it's only because it's limited in nature. If In-N-Out were all over the country like McDonald's and Five Guys, it would be no different than, no one would be going to it. It's cool when we used to go to the games in California.
Right.
In-N-Out because we couldn't get it. Now there's one down the road here, and I just don't like. Five Guys is great, dude. Five Guys is like my carnivore cheat. I'll get it's expensive. Five Guys is expensive though compared to other fast food joints.
Well, I don't think it's considered fast food. It is a sit-down restaurant.
No, that means
I don't think it's considered fast food.
It might be fast casual. I think.
Is that an actual category?
I don't know, but I think if you order at a counter, it's fast food.
I mean that it might be. I mean, I don't consider it fast food. I don't know.
I can
say something.
So I have answers to all the things that you guys are just talking about.
Rattle them out. Start with bologna. Start with bologna.
Start with bologna. Okay, bologna is a cooked smoked sausage made of cured beef.
First of all,
I think that's bologna.
That doesn't sound right. If Katie did nothing else this month, her salary is worth it, just from looking at these types of things.
Just for looking up bologna. All right. What was the one before? What was the first one before?
Five Guys, the genre is categorized as fast casual.
Okay.
So,
there you go. Nice.
Nailed it. The original question.
I think Chick-fil-A is probably fast casual as well.
I would guess that. Yeah.
Chipotle.
Moe's. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Like McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's,
right.
And then there's a level up. It's basically like the level 3 version of food, and then level 4 version of food is fast casual.
Meaning like there is no place you can get that because it's not real.
I'm gonna tell Nicole Carroll at the games that you think the level 4 is fake.
I told who did I told? I told Carl Stedman that the other day.
I saw your post. Yes.
I was like, oh, you think you're a unicorn as well? It's great.
Katie, what is the definition of principles?
Well, hang on. Next, yes, the total investment to open McDonald's ranges between 1 million and 2 million. That's
Look at
true.
her. She's looking up stuff you can ask about.
Right.
Yeah.
She had to redeem
next,
herself from earlier.
I'm trying to redeem myself. Next, so you mentioned franchising, so I thought I could pull up the definition of affiliation versus franchising because I thought that might be interesting.
Hey, listen, just when we thought you couldn't possibly be any worse, Katie, you've gone and totally redeemed yourself.
Yeah.
Look at me coming back.
Whatever we're paying you, it's plenty.
So affiliation is the act of connecting or associating with a person or organization. And then franchise is an authorization granted by a government or company to an individual or group, enabling them to carry out specific commercial activities.
There you go.
Way worse.
Basically a template. Yeah, way worse.
It's a template.
There's government involved too.
That's what
Well,
it
it
says,
could just be just a governing
Governing body,
right?
right?
Governing, yeah. And then definitions of principle and template. Template is a preset format so that the format does not have to be recreated each time it is used. And a principle is the fundamental truth or proposition that serves as the foundation for a system of belief or behavior or the chain of reasoning.
I love it.
There's a lot there.
I love it. So also good news is going forward, all listeners have to do is skip to the last 2 minutes of an episode. But yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. It's like rigid versus flexibility, but still accomplishing the task at the end. You know, it's very reminiscent to technique, right, Fern?
Right.
Like technique, there's many techniques to accomplish a task. There's better and worse, but I'm going to allow you to experiment and figure out which one works best for you. If we only teach the snatch like Coach B straight line, we may get some progress, but if we allow the hit and catch, the Russian technique, etc., maybe you can do more, but maybe it doesn't work for you. And I think you're so pigeonholed into, hey, the hit and catch, and you have grandma coming in for the first time. And you're like, grandma, smash that barbell into your hips, All right.
Or high bar versus low bar back squatting, right? Just like, I mean, they're like, which one do you teach? I'm like, whichever one works for the person, because the principle is to squat.
Yeah.
So, well, anyway, this has come up a lot in a lot of different scenarios because people are, which is cool because I think people are trying to improve, right? But I think what's important is you set out on this journey with the correct kind of filters in mind, which is like, you're not going to search the internet and find this like very template that's going to solve all your problems. You need to start thinking about what are the principles that I'm going to learn that I can navigate within my space real time to get to success for my clients, for my coaching staff, for my affiliate. And, you'll be way happier because you can keep that creativity and you'll end up growing something that's very, very fun and very effective.
So you never miss an episode of the podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel and on all major podcasting platforms at Best Hour of Their Day. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being a part of the best hour of our day. See you next time.